Hey, good afternoon, everyone. As you can hear from the background, we're still laughing about JB's birthday celebration.
Gotta do the magic hand here.
Yep. And let me know when you can hear me and if the volume is good.
Sound is good. And the
Cool.
camera's good now, too.
Excellent. So as you can see, I'm back in my far more comfortable and normal attire. You guys won't be seeing me in a suit, hopefully, again.
They want Secret Agent MJ.
Yeah, certainly not for a while. But yeah, let's get started. So first, just to recap about the trip to Abu Dhabi. It is something that came quite unsolicited. It was a nice surprise. I'll be there for about 5 days, not including travel. I am going to be attending the first ever Abu Dhabi CNN business conference there, which is really cool. I'll also have time for backers. So if you folks out, whether in the Emirates themselves or happen to be in the Emirates during the same time or would travel to the Emirates to have a chat and meet me, I'm there. I'll be there for you. I'll be updating, sending out an update next week with additional information. But right now, the simplest way to let me know you're interested is to send a message to support with the title MJ Goes to Abu Dhabi, and we can start to coordinate things. While I'm out there as well, I'll be meeting with a good friend of mine who is based now in Asia, and we'll be having some chats because he's actually heading in the sort of same direction. So that's kind of cool. But yeah, that's Abu Dhabi. It was a very kind and generous invitation, and I've known this person for now more than 3 years, and he actually contacted us during the Kickstarter. So that was kind of cool. And it's not the same folks that I saw when I was in Qatar a few years ago as well. So, yep, that's it on Abu Dhabi. Vacation went great. I got, other than, a couple days of bad weather, had some fun, relaxed, ate too much food, and met two very cool individuals who I'll also be telling you about in the update. Both are entertainers. Both are, really interesting and talented people who've also said that they would like to help out. And so that's kind of cool as well. So, yeah, that's it on the trip. Let's talk about today's top 10-ish list. So as I also said during the update, during this week's update, things are going great on the hiring front. We hope to have our 5th programmer signed either over the weekend or on Monday. Still finalizing bits on the contract, but we're very excited to have this person join us. Another senior engineer, very talented engineer, and hopefully starting before the end of the year, but most likely the beginning of January. Obviously as well, we are going to continue to keep looking for additional programmers. We have 3 folks right now in different stages, or 2 in different stages, and one we're awaiting a resume that all come from the friends and family section of the yellow pages that apparently our programmers and technical producer have access to. And we keep getting these great folks to look at, courtesy of the Seattle team. So that's really cool. So our goal is to have, at the beginning of January, 6 programmers and 1 technical producer out in Seattle. Right now we have 4 programmers and 1 tech producer. We've been looking for offices, and we've got two right now, interesting possibilities. I'll let you know as well as we move forward. For those folks in Seattle or environs, right now it looks like I'll be heading out there in the middle of December to meet with the team, and we'll have a get-together. So if there are backers in Seattle, and again, environs, or people who want to travel to Seattle for a get-together, we will be organizing this one on the forums, so please let us know. Just as we have done in the past when I travel, especially when I go with Janet and Michael, we are very happy to meet with our backers, so you'll have another opportunity while we're in Seattle. Yeah, that's it on the hey, what's going on with the top 10-ish list. So let's start. Again, it has been a terrific week, just as last week was. You guys and gals, hope you can get used to that, because that's what you're going to be hearing going forward, especially on a monthly basis. We promised you that we were going to do everything we could to bring more talent into the team. Because as good as the guys and gals here are, we've been very clear that we need additional folks. We've hired additional folks. Again, we've gone from one person in Seattle before the summer to now 5 people in Seattle, and hopefully 7 at the beginning of the year. That's a pretty big jump for a studio our size. Because of that, things are moving more quickly here in terms of our updates, in terms of adding new systems, doing iteration on current systems as well, which is a lot of this list. Everything is going great. It's not going well, it's going great. You've seen it, you'll continue to see it. You'll see it if we have a test this weekend. We're awaiting word. We're trying to track down, I think, one last bug. But if it goes well, we'll have at least an alpha and IT test where you'll see some of the things I'm talking about today. So let's start with number 1, abilities. So over the last week, we've dropped in over 60 new components. So we are now up to 150 components among the 9 classes. The beauty of that is, of course, you folks have been using them. You've been testing them. You've been sending us bug reports. Thank you so much. That's perfect. And we've been, of course, fixing the bugs. So there's been a lot of iteration there, and we're going to continue to iterate, certainly right up and then through beta. But you can see how quickly now now that rehabilitation is almost done, how quickly we could now add components to the system. And that, as I've been telling you from the beginning of rehab, was the reason that we are doing things this way. We knew this was going to be a difficult process. We didn't underestimate I don't want to say we didn't underestimate entirely the scope, because otherwise we would have been ready a little sooner. But you know, as always, when you dive into a problem, actually hands-on, sometimes things come up. And sometimes as well, we also get better ideas how to do things. And when you put that all together, we've now built a new ability creation system that's pretty darn cool. And one that, again, you can see just how much progress we've made over the few weeks adding these components. And so once these classes are in, I expect the other classes will go just about as quickly, sometimes more quickly, depending on how many new component types we have to build. But expect, get used to seeing these kind of numbers as we move forward. So we have stances now in a usable state. As you know, stances are an important part of our game, and they are now in. They are not finished, of course, but they are now in and working. Banes and boons. So we continue to add more banes and boons. Those are also getting into a usable state. We're working on a new addition to the character creation UI, so you will be actually be able to pick them for the game in beta. So we've just begun testing, and this is one of the things that was holding up or might hold up a test, the multi-zone physics. Now what does that mean? As simply as I can put it, it allows us to have big maps, really big maps maps that are a lot bigger than you've already seen, which quite frankly are quite big already. Our official new scale, instead of miles, kilometers, is actually DCs, District of Columbia's. So as we talk about some of the bigger maps, we'll talk about them in terms of how much bigger they are than the district, which is, right outside beautiful downtown Fairfax. So once we get these zones in, and they already, frankly, are in, once we get it perfected, the size of our maps will be able to scale quite quickly from where they are today. And as you've seen from our earlier tests, that's a pretty big scale already. Patcher, we fixed some bugs that came up with it and some UX issues, and we're continuing to make changes to the Patcher. If you haven't been in the test yet this week, you'll notice it the first time you go in this weekend, hopefully this weekend. We're continuing to work on our VFX system. This is the system we said that was going to be new and improved and ready for Beta 1, and we're still heading in that direction. We keep giving greater control to Mike. For all those who have been part of us for a while, I'm referring to Mike Crossmeyer, who will be forever remembered as the guy who created the effect with all the giant hammers in Dark Age of Camelot. He's been part of CSE from the beginning, and now he's getting close to the point, for the first time as part of CSE or part of the Camelot Unchained team, where he can actually create the kind of effects that he really wants to. So if you liked the technical and artistic proficiency that we had way back in the day, expect to see some pretty cool things in the coming months. Rendering. So the HDR changes went in first pass, and the world looks very different. A bit less shiny than it looked before, but we've been able to keep the color saturation level where it needs to be, so everything looks really good. This is only the first pass at it, but the goal is, of course, to give the art team more control, more turning knob control than they had before. So this weekend you'll see how it looks. I was just in about half hour ago, and it's looking pretty good. Not finished, nowhere near finished, but for those of you who haven't been in our tests or haven't been in for a while, go back to some of our old videos or some of the old screenshots and compare the world then to where it is today. And again, we are not finished. We're not even close to finished. But the change is so dramatic from what we showed even at the first DragonCon video to where we are, even in the second DragonCon video as well, from where we are today. It's pretty substantial. Animation. So we continue to work on more and more animations. Andrew is working on the system itself, and of course Sandra and Scott are continuing to add and improve current animations, and we'll get back at some point to fidgets as well. But you can expect that when beta launches, we will have an awful lot of animations, and certainly much better animations than were in the alpha testing. Weapons, we got 8 different potion bottles done and added for the Arthurian physician. So those are in the game. We've made we've done new passes on armor. So you can look at the Arthurian and the Viking light, medium, and heavy armor and see a difference from just a few weeks ago. We will be continuing to work on both of those realms as well as the TDD realm in the coming weeks.
Hang on, I think your drink taking caused it to go out of focus. There we go.
Something wrong?
No, it's all good.
Oh, good. So the last thing on the top 10-ish list is the biomes. One of the things that we have already showed you, but we continue to harp on, was our deep and dark forests. Well, they're about to get deeper and darker. Some of the changes from lighting, other changes will be upcoming in terms of the kinds of trees. So for those of you who might be wondering if, boy, are all the trees going to look like the trees we currently have in the game? No, they will look quite different. What you're seeing now is the first pass of a fairly standard, biome. Expect more interesting things to come in the coming weeks. But again, if you haven't been in a test so far, and you'll be in a test either this week or in the coming weeks, I think you'll love what you see with the forests. That's been a big focus of the team and will continue to be a focus in the coming weeks, because frankly, that's one of the things that sets us apart from so many other games. Think about how many MMOs there are that you can currently play that truly have deep, dark forests. There are some great ones out there. Certainly, Black Desert has excellent forests. I think certainly by the time we go in beta, you'll be even more impressed with our forests, not only compared to the games who don't have much in forests, but games like Black Desert. So I look forward to hearing what you all say about it when we get into beta. General note, of course, beta we are still moving along very nicely to beta. These tests that we are doing are certainly quite important, and Tim is about to flash a note. Okay, so excellent, great. Let's open it up and get some people in there. So we are going to open hatchery now for Alpha and IT folks. Jump on in if you can. We are testing 3 islands with the multi-zone tech. So if you can jump in and test over the next couple hours, we'll know if we can leave the servers up over the weekend for Alpha folks. We are trying to track down one nasty bug that we've seen in a bunch of machines. Happens maybe once a day. But if we can track that down before the end of the day, we may even open it up for the beta ones. If not, we will definitely open up for the betas as soon as we can solve that. But it's we don't like crashing bugs on the client side, even if they happen once every day. But we do. This is one we really want to get right before we open it up for double the number of people that currently can get in for these tests. And as you folks have seen from our testing, we let a lot of you in. Right now, more than 2/3 of our backers will be able to have access to the Alpha and Beta 1 tests. And that's pretty special when you look at other games, and not all other games, of course, and the access you can get. You'll get a lot, continue to get a lot during the next couple months, and as well as the opening of Beta 1. So, for now, that's it on the update. I wish I had something to be discouraging about, but I can't. All I can say is we are very happy. You probably saw that in the video. Things are just moving along beautifully. We're so excited about the way the Seattle and Virginia teams are working together. We're excited about the new people that will be coming on board as well. And as you all know, I hate being optimistic. But you can see it in the patch notes. You can see it in the user stories. Stuff is flying out of here faster than ever before. And that is something that we know will continue, not only the next couple months, but for as long as we can, as we continue to add more people to Seattle, and the teams on both coasts get better. So yeah, much excitement here, and whether it's programming or art or design, things are moving along just so well. We are very happy with where we're at, extremely happy. So, I've told you that I'm always trying to keep the hype down. I'll continue to keep the hype down. But if you want a reason to be optimistic, look at the amount of things we have been getting in over the last few months. Then you compare it to where we were 6 months before that. Using the term sea change may be a bit too much, but it's a pretty big change. So, don't get hyped yet, but starting to feel optimistic, starting to feel good about where we are. I would, because I am, and I've always been the one to say, let's keep things in check. I expect great things from the combined, forces of the Republic, and I have no doubt that we won't disappoint. So, that said, as always, I thank you, and we thank you for your support. And now let's go to a QA.
All right, we're gonna play the Q&A intro and write up your questions for NJ.
Who are you?
Turn the stove off. Did I hear a dog?
Do you like my shirt?
When are this?
Is this my spleen?
Now it is time to answer some questions.
Okay, here we go. Sacrix asks, refunds, will they end at the start of Beta 1 or at the end or during? Are you still sticking to showing the extent of where the game is going before removing refunds to give people a real view?
Yep. The last thing, Sacrix. We certainly would not do it before the opening of Beta 1. That would fly in the face of the things I've said before to our backers. That would suck. No, we want our backers to take a look at the game, to look at our progress, to have a warning before we change the policy. To do anything less would be to break faith with our backers. And by the way, when we change our policy, it won't be to a no refund ever policy. We wouldn't go that far. It will just be a different refund policy. We still have to do our job. We still have to, be willing to make the kind of commitment we're willing to make. It will not be oh, I'm sorry, now you can't get a refund even if we decided to make Mary Kate and Ashley go into the forests. It won't be anything like that. It will just be a change, because at that point you will have seen the progress. You will have seen the direction of the game. You will have seen what we're doing in Seattle. And especially because so many of the refunds that we're still giving are people who've been coming in just to check things out. That takes time, that takes money, and it also distracts from other work that I have to do. And none of those are good. So I think I can safely say our refund policy will be very fair. It'll be very much in keeping with some of the guidelines, as well as some of the consumer protection policies in, say, countries like Australia. That's the sort of policy we want. We want to be fair. What we don't want, and what isn't fair to us, are people who are coming in, pledging big pledges just to get into a test and then leaving. That's what videos are for. You want to see what the game is like? Watch the videos. But don't subscribe to the game just to get into a test and then leave. That's not fair to the developer. Just like a policy that had no possibility for refunds would be unfair to the consumer. If we said, hey, we're going to make this game, and then the game isn't that game, or we said, hey, these are going to be the specs for our game, and all of a sudden, yeah, we kind of said that, and NVIDIA, 6 series card would be fine, but now you need a 10 series to play the game. Sorry, no refunds. That would be unfair. I try hard never ever to be unfair. And so we are in the process of crafting a policy that's going to be fair and that will keep faith and will give plenty of time for our backers to look at things and decide, yeah, it's worth pledging to the game if you're new, and it's also worth continuing to support the game because we've made such an effort, not only to get the game out, but the additional effort that I am making and the other investor is making to get it out more quickly. And we did not have to do that. We're doing it because we think it's the right thing to do.
Odilvik asks, will all the stats be live and meaningful for Beta 1, or will some be placeholder with no in-game effect?
I believe not all the stats will be pertinent for Beta 1 because all the classes aren't in there yet. During Beta, as we add new classes, more stats will become pertinent.
Swazi84 asks, when you're hiring new programmers, do they question you on how you plan on implementing some novel BSC ideas, such as the air system? Has this caused any issues with hiring?
Oh my God, yes. We get asked all sorts of things. We had, I think I've mentioned this before, we've had more than one senior programmer who told us what we were doing is impossible. I love that. We eat that up. So yeah, we get many questions from senior folks about not only the technical prowess of the current team and the tech, but also whether we have a good plan to deliver on some of the BSC things. And as you've seen from the last couple months of testing, we're already delivering on some of those BSC things. So, yeah, really happy, really confident about, frankly, everything we've said in regards to BSC.
Miatalis asks, is the daily report system going to be built entirely on positive reinforcement, or will there be an element of risk, some kind of penalties for failed assignments? Will the king punish us for doing a bad job at serving our realm?
Hell yes. It can't just be positive. There has to be some negative stuff associated with it. I don't know how long you've been a backer. One of the things that I've talked about in the past was that if your realm is has better numbers, has better not only in terms of the number of people, but power in terms of the combined strength of the forces of that realm. So it's not just, oh, you had 1,000 players and this other realm had 950 players. But if those 1,000 players were more powerful, they had bigger keeps, they had other things to make them a greater threat. If you underperform as the most powerful realm, yeah, there are going to be some sticks to go along with the carrots. There have to be. We've seen more than enough games, MMOs, where keep trading and that sort of, well, we don't really want to penalize people at all, attempt to keep RVR fun and balanced and meaningful have failed. So yeah, there will be some sticks to go along with the carrots. Now we do want to be as positive as possible, of course, and we don't want to punish players unfairly because that's bad. But if you're not willing to say to certain realms or certain realms on different servers that you had a 3-to-1 advantage and these other guys took your lunch money, then it's going to be hard, very hard, to avoid the kind of problems other games have had. We want to avoid those with every breath we take, because this game is going to live and die on its foundational, not only its foundational principles, but its foundational components. Obviously, crafting is one, RVR is another. And if we don't have, some sticks, if we don't have some penalties for not going out as an RVR player or as a realm and defending your properties, that's not going to be a fruitful result. At least I don't think so.
Paladin Brewer asks, will we be able to upload custom guild decals for cloaks and such, or will they be predefined images like Deok?
We hope to have both. We certainly have talked about the first one, the second one, and we hope to have the first one as well.
Mendek asks, When beta arrives, are you aiming to have servers up 24/7?
No. Beta 1 will not be a 24/7 thing, mainly because of cost. Running servers 24/7 is expensive. All you folks have to do is, go over to Amazon Web Services and spec out the kind of instances we use, and you'll see how quickly that can add up. So no, we are not going to have it 24/7, not for the opening beta. Expect a very similar pattern to what we've had now, which is weekend testing whenever possible, and lots of tests during the week, depending on the week, of course. So I think we'll give you more access to beta, or true beta 1, than most other MMOs. I can't guarantee that, but I think we'll be doing that. But do expect the weekends. That's really the most important time, since so many of our folks obviously work during the week.
Hemo says, by the way, I just watched the Abu Dhabi video and I'm from Qatar.
Oh, nice. Are you going to come to Abu Dhabi? And in Qatar, are you from Doha?
Abducted Gaming asks, do y'all plan to include many non-armor clothing items at launch? Equipables that are largely just cosmetic like pants.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. As much as I hate to admit it, there's a whole bunch of people here who really love cosmetic items and have spent money on them in other games. I am not one of them, and I think they would be very angry with me if I did not support lots of cosmetic, not buy for cash items in our game. So yeah, do expect lots of cosmetic things. Frankly, that could be another stretch goal for us when we got much further along. Oh, and let me take a segue here, since you brought up a point which led me to a very good digression. Stretch goals. People have asked when we're going to put them on. I certainly have said we're going to reinstate them after Beta 1 starts. Do expect us to do another stretch goal for additional programmers, even above the current number. The situation in Seattle is quite conducive to adding programmers going forward, and I would certainly like to add more than the ones we've already penciled in based on our, me and the other investors' contribution. We've got a really good team out there, and adding some more to it could certainly help speed up development.
Here's a question that came up the other day. Why Sensei asks, do you have anything special in store for us for this Christmas?
Just features. Well, I'd love to do some Christmas-themed stuff, and maybe we'll have time to do a little. We're keeping the team focused on getting us into beta. And look, I'm big, huge, massive Halloween fan. I love Halloween. It's one of my favorite holidays. And I didn't want us to spend time supporting, that. And it's the same with Christmas. Love to do it, but it's just a question of time. What I hope will be a good Christmas present for everybody is seeing where we are in terms of game development on the 25th. That would be great.
Nevard asks, if I pledge $10K, can you add PvE content similar to what was on Daok?
Not a chance. So seriously, didn't mean to laugh, but the amount of money it would take to add PvE content to this game would be substantial. Plus, it would break faith with so many of the backers who want a PvP RVR game. I love PvE. Anyone who's followed my games over the years and has seen these streams or talked to me knows how much I love PvE. But crappy PvE is crap. And if we don't have the time and the talent to do a great PvE game, I don't want to do crappy PvE content. On the other hand, please keep in mind that there is lots of PvE in Camelot Unchained. There is just not PvE leveling in Camelot Unchained. And that's the big difference. You'll have crafting, you'll have the depths, You have other things that you will be able to do that is PvE, but you can't level during it. That's the important difference, and that's very consistent with what I've been saying even before the Kickstarter began, because frankly, it is what I said before the Kickstarter began. So that's where we'd like to go. Down the road, if things go well with this game, things go well with the studio, I would love to take a turn at doing another PvE game, especially with a bit of BSC to it, because I think the industry needs it. I think there's a lot of stale, very stale ideas when it comes to PvE and MMO, and I would love to change that.
Arboroath asks, how extensive will the crafting be at the start of Beta 1? And has a full crafting doc been released yet?
Hasn't been released yet. Frankly, I just haven't had the time. I go in and make changes and edits when I can. And as far as extensive, it will not be extensive. It will be able to do a lot of things, but not extensive. Not the way it will be certainly at launch. But what it will be is it will allow our crafters to really play with the numbers. And that's the focus. I wasn't looking to put out a version of crafting that's all pretty and, ooh, look at how nice this seems. What's more important for our crafters, especially at the opening of Beta 1, is to start to see the numbers, see the time that it's going to take, to give us feedback on how this works. That's what I care about. Because we do that now, we'll have a great crafting system at launch. And that, as we know from other games, including Warhammer, unfortunately, is the way to do things, not the way those games, again, including Warhammer, did it.
Odilvik asks, with the amount of data being logged, will you be able to classify players with an approximation of the Bartle test of gamer psychology and reveal the player's explorer, socializer, achiever, and killer taxonomy? Basing the results on hard facts rather than wishful thinking?
Certainly not for the opening of Beta 1. Look, I love Dr. Richard Bartle. We're friends, I think good friends. And I think a lot of what he said is, and continues to say, is quite smart. For us, we're not trying to classify people that way for very important reasons, mainly the lack of PvE leveling. What we want to use our metrics for, and this is crucial to this game's success, is are things working the way that they're supposed to work? Which abilities, which components, which races, which classes are underperforming? Are things balanced so the classes are interacting the way that they should? That's what we want to use it for. The higher level things that Richard talked about is not something, when you take his theory as a whole, is not something we're going to be spending any time on. And not for certainly Beta 1.
Francis Bode asks, when will we see the first insect or animal in CU? A squirrel in a tree, maybe?
Hi, Francis. Oh, good. I actually don't know the answer to that. Good question. Not in the short term. I haven't added squirrel stew to the crafting doc yet, so that was a joke. Max usually laughs. He didn't, so I guess it didn't work.
I was just thinking about the next question.
But yeah, that's not a big focus for Beta 1. The opening of Beta 1. And let me remind people, every time I say Beta 1, I mean the opening of Beta 1, unless I say otherwise. But I do expect we'll have things during Beta 1.
Gwelch Uni asks, hi, with the beta delay, can we expect more characters at the premiere?
If by characters you mean races, that's possible. Certainly we have said from the beginning that we want to have many more races. So we'll see. Fortunately, for the most part, adding additional races is an art thing more than a programming thing. So that's very easy, is easier for us to outsource if we need to, or to do in-house if we have the time.
Briar C asks, when the game is released, do you have an idea for a system in place where fan sites can query data on characters to see some stats, such as PvP kills, wounds healed, etc.
Yes. Well, nice, easy, short answer.
Rhaegar asks, what is the maximum number of programmers we want?
Not sure there is. No. Boy, so if I had to pick a maximum number for this game, and this is max. This is, perfect world, all things going well. Double the number of programmers would be fantastic. Just to make sure everyone remembers, that's not what we said in the beginning in terms of what the size of our team would be. We never thought we'd get that many programmers. But if you're asking what a nice max would be for CU for launch, that would be great. I think beyond that, and whether it's double or whether it's 90% more, or 70% more, 120% more, we haven't even bothered thinking about much now. But it's certainly much more than that. Actually wouldn't help us a lot over the next year. Some additional people would, and what that number is, whether it's 3 above what we currently have planned for, Seattle, Virginia, or 9 more, I don't know. It's really a question of, you reach a point where, especially in a game like ours, and also the way we do things as a company, where you just can't keep adding programmers, or you just can't keep adding artists. Eventually you start to get less of a return on those people, and we don't want to do that. We have a really good system of communication within our studio in Virginia. It's called just being able to talk to people, and if you get too big, that gets harder. It's one of the things we have to overcome with having 2 separate studios. That's one of the reasons we hired the tech producer. That's one of the reasons we will be, once Seattle gets its own office, we'll be hooking them up with cameras and mics, and hooking us up even more with cameras and mics, so we can get as close to having this 2 studios feel like one studio that we possibly can. We treat them the same way we treat ourselves. We're going to Doctor Strange tonight, and I, of course, told the Seattle folks that they should go to Doctor Strange as well. And, of course, we're buying the tickets. Otherwise, that would seem kind of silly. And that's really important. We want these studios, as much as possible, to feel like one. And when we get too many people, if we get too many people, that becomes even harder. We don't want to do it. One of the things that Andrew and I talked about from the beginning was where we wanted to see the size of of CSE. And we were very clear with each other that neither of us wants to build a 1,000-person company. That doesn't interest me. I know it doesn't interest him. So that is not our goal. Our goal is to build the right size team for this project, and then for projects after that.
Saccharix asks, will Cube be turned more realistic to how you want with stats, metrics, and generally how you want things to be structurally sound and not building on air, or will you be doing that stuff on the live server?
Oh, well, certainly Cube, once Cube is part of a beta program for CU, it has to be more realistic. Cube versus Unchained building are, as we've said before, very different things. Building on air, structurally unstable structures won't work for Camelot Unchained. That would be bad. That would be dumb. That wouldn't fit with what we want to do with Unchained. On the other hand, for Cube, have fun, knock yourself out. We'll have eventually different settings to control just how realistic we may want you to build or let you build on Cube, as opposed to right now you can build any way you want, and that's great. That's what Cube is for. For Unchained, it has to be more realistic. It has to have stability, because otherwise that would violate the one of the principles of this game.
Paladin Brewer asks, will there be predefined routes for caravans? Do we follow player-made points, or can we steer them wherever we want?
we've talked about both. Certainly, scheduled caravans have to be a thing. But what we really want to do, obviously, is put more control in the hands of the players. These are your servers. These are your realms. If everything had to be controlled by us, that would get kind of boring and also very predictable. Oh yeah, look, it's now 8 o'clock. We know that the caravan will be leaving from here and going there. That's not a challenge for experienced gamers like you folks. What's more of a challenge is finding out when caravans are leaving, when people, like Tearless, are leading his animals to try to get stuff to another part of the world. That's where it gets much more interesting, and that's the way we want to do it.
Just so you know, Tim and Andrew are daring each other to put a crate on the login screen.
Of course they are.
Rhaegar asks, when might the team get around to making crafted items better than the default ones?
Well, that's actually crafting. By better, you mean better stats. In terms of looks and other things, that's not for the opening of Beta 1.
Diabolix asks, when will we get the round blocks in Cube?
Funny you mentioned that. Yeah, that's one of the things Andrew, Brad, and I were talking about today. And the team were talking about today. So, nicely timed question. Update coming soon.
Lily Ora asks, will Cube allow more than one person to build together?
Damn, we got 2 great questions in a row. Let's see if we can keep it up with a third. Yeah, that's part of the plan for Cube. We want you folks to be able to go into Cube as not only your personal playground, but also a playground to let other people in as well. So that's one of the things.
Well, this has to do with buildings also. Paladin Brewer asks, if we raise enemy-made keeps/buildings, are we able to salvage materials?
Yes, you absolutely are. That's part of it. You guys and gals, when you're storming the castle, and then drive off the bad guys, that's one of the things you'll be trying to do. Can you take some of the better stuff that's used there? That's kind of one of the reasons to go. It's not, when you go out and you burn a village, or you burn, some wooden structures down, that's relatively easy. We're certainly not going to allow you to do that to the keeps or to the castles. It can't be, oh look, I set the stone on fire and it broke, or I just did chip, chip, chip and it broke. On the other hand, being able to salvage things from these keeps, to take stuff, whether stuff is more traditional, stuff like tapestry, or taking stuff from the buildings themselves, that's where it gets more interesting and far more, useful.
Aeroby asks, is Cube as an external offline plaything being scrapped before launch, or will builders be able to utilize it to test creations for live servers, or some other plan?
Oh God, why would we scrap Cube? No. Cube is great. Cube is awesome. Of course you'll be able to use it, for playing around. We haven't put this much effort into Cube to scrap it. Quite the opposite. No, I apologize profusely if somehow you got that, thought from me. No, Cube is here to stay. We love it. We want to expand it. We want to do a lot more with it. Cube ain't going nowhere but up, not down.
Rizla asks, is the stuff we're testing today going to be accessible to beta-ers for testing in the next few days?
Maybe. Again, we're trying to track down one, nasty bug. If we track that one down, then we'll open it for betas. Of course, I still don't know if we're going to open it for alphas for the weekend. That's why we open the alpha test now. We need you folks to go in and play around with things and see if all is well. It's funny because that's one of the advantages of having more programmers is that we get to do things quicker. One of the disadvantages of that is, of course, sometimes builds are not quite as stable as we would like them to be because we keep adding stuff. We're really trying, and this is a good example of how, we're really trying to get this game out quicker for you boys and girls. And as not an unforeseen but an unfortunate consequence on that, sometimes we hit Friday and things aren't quite as stable. Because at the end of the day, with alpha testers, you're helping us. You're helping us by checking out the new stuff. So if we kept an old version around, that's not all that helpful. And plus, we pay a reasonable amount of money every weekend to do that. So, this, hey, we hit Friday and we don't know if it's going to be stable enough. I know that's frustrating at times, but it's all for the good because it means we keep adding more and more things. So I'll keep you posted. Certainly, it's almost 5. We still have time. I'm going to be getting an update out, and that update will also let you folks know what's going on for testing this weekend.
Rhaegar asks, when will we hear your ideas for rezzing, like Beta 2 or Beta 3?
Oh, we'll talk about that during Beta 1.
Paladin Brewer asks, how will you balance market flooding and allowing crafters to play 24/7 without just having to gather all the time?
Say that again?
How will you balance market flooding and allowing crafters to play 24/7 without just having to gather all the time?
Okay, so obviously you're talking about launch as opposed to beta. Well, crafters can play 24/7 if they want, but keep in mind what I've said in the past, and this is rock solid foundational principle, even more rock solid than any other, or than just about any other one if you think about it. Crafting has to take time. It must. That can't change, because the moment we change it, the moment we would say that crafting whatever item is quick and simple and fast, or simply fast, then you can have market flooding. On the other hand, by the use of the Vox, we are going to slow down the flow of goods into the system. And yeah, I know that doesn't sound like fun, but I do know, based on the way you asked this question, you know that that's the right thing to do. Because if we did allow crafters to play 24/7 or craft 24/7 and create a huge number of items for the market, and the market, of course, is not an auction house. The market is the combined goods of all the players that are for sale. Yeah, we'd be in trouble. So don't worry about it. It isn't going to happen. Crafting is going to take time. It has to. Voxes are slow. They have to be. That, while maybe not the most pleasant thought, but it does allow crafters to encourage crafters to go out and do other things, to go out and to gather, to help combatants, to do stuff in the depths, because frankly, that's what they should be doing. Not all of that, but certainly some of it.
Horst Rudolph asks, if every building needs a plot, how easy will it be to build something like walls or other small, maybe more cosmetic buildings?
Well, no, not every building needs a separate plot. I think you're confusing the concept of plots for beta and the way the game is going to work at launch. For example, in the cities, you're not going to have to do a building per plot. That would be bad. Same even in Beta 1. You have a plot and you can put multiple buildings up within that plot if your plot can fit it.
Helzik asks, if you're striving for displaying as much information as possible through visuals like animations and models, and shaping is a part of the crafting process, will shaped parts of gear and weapons have ways to show the different modifiers used visually?
Yeah, not for Beta 1, but yes, that's one of the things we've talked about as well.
Why Sensei asks, since movement and movement speed are key factors in many PvP-oriented MMOs, how do you plan to handle or balance that aspect of game mechanics?
Sorry, my mind went elsewhere for a second. Can you repeat that?
He's asking about movement. Since movement and movement speed are key factors in many PvP-oriented MMOs, how do you plan to handle or balance that aspect of game mechanics?
Oh, it's like balancing any other part of the RVR system. You've seen some of played and seen some of our videos where we've shown the movement speed. Is that the final movement speed? Of course not. But the whole feel of our game is not a MOBA. We've been very clear on that. We're not trying to make a super action-oriented Twitch-style game where you can, bunny hop or jump, move, across the map very quickly. So balancing it for our game is going to be less challenging than for some other games. Did we ever hear back from the person from Qatar?
If we have, I haven't seen it.
Oh, too bad. If you're
we have
listening,
lots of folks in chat. So.
Okay. Hey, if you if you're still in the chat and you are the person who said you're from Qatar, love to know you're from Doha, and are you going to be going to Abu Dhabi?
All right. Arcane Cloister asks, do you think you could let Cube be used for players to make custom depths maps or cave or dungeon maps?
No. That would be really cool, but that's not in the mix for the short term. But good idea.
Pixel Corruption, I don't quite understand your cosmetic items question. Try rewording that. Poker Dog asks, how do you plan to make large battles more skill-based than other games that have tried RVR, where bad players can hide in the masses and just spam random abilities and nothing really matters what you do?
Yeah, that's not going to happen. Again, this whole game is designed around the importance of ability building and ability crafting. We've also been very clear that we're not going to have lots and lots of instant abilities that you can simply spam. Positioning is important. We've talked about as well how spells and abilities, or certain types of abilities, can be intercepted by other people, including your own team. So, yeah, there's a certain amount of cleverness that is going to be needed in these battles, and won't be just one giant furball with people spamming buttons as quickly as they can. It's also one of the reasons for the whole blood mechanic. If you run out of that, and you can make the same argument, obviously, about mana and other things, then something like spamming ain't going to work very well. So.
Well, CSC J. Young, John, has a follow-up question to that. Do you think we will get a depths version of Cube? I want to make a castle out of skulls.
Yeah, that would be kind of cool. I mean, again, making buildings for the depths, potentially, sure. But something like the dungeons themselves, the caves themselves, that's a whole nother issue. And yes, you could fake it, but there needs to be more for a dungeon building version than I think we have possibly in terms of programming talent for the short term.
Odelvik asks, within Cube you can possibly build a structure that is structurally sound when completed, but structurally unsound whilst in the build process. Will the game permit a temporarily unsound structure to be built?
That's a great question. The obvious answer would be no, but that's something we'd have to discuss with Rob, because I know exactly where you're going with that, and that's a really good question.
Paladin Brewer asks, when will we get more information on the planned guild interface, settings, powers, etc.? Can you give us any fun information?
The only thing I can say right now about the guild system and the guild interface is that we expect it to be a lot of fun, to be useful, We're not trying, as I did, with Warhammer Online, to do a full living guild system where it was as cool as anyone else out there at the time. But we still think we have a bunch of interesting ideas that you folks should love.
Vozel asks, can you explain a bit more about attunement/will versus faith? Is faith for healers and devouts? Is attunement will for mages and spirit mages? And which of these stats should you focus on if you want to get stronger heals?
Yeah, that's something that we should talk about another time, and that Ben should be here for as well, because there's a lot to do. It's a great question, but there's a lot to talk about. And since it's 5 o'clock, I'm going to look for one last question, because I've got to get to today's, update.
All right, folks, I'm going to look for one last great question here. Sorry we can't get to all the questions right now, but feel free to save them up and ask them later. Let's see.
And while Max is doing that, again, if you're in chat now or if you're seeing this video later, if you are in the Abu Dhabi area at the end of November or want to be in the Abu Dhabi area, sorry, I guess I've been talking too long, please send a message to support with the title MJ Goes to Abu Dhabi, and so we can start to coordinate, a get-together. I know one person already has responded and says that he's going to take the drive from Dubai to come visit, which is just fantastic. I'll make time for that person, so hopefully there'll be more, and we can pick, a time that's convenient for everybody. But certainly, since I'm flying to a part of the world I rarely get a chance to go to, I want to take advantage of it, and I hope some of you will take advantage of it. And for those who will ask, I know on the forums, I also plan on getting to Europe next year. As many of you know, I couldn't do that when I initially wanted to, due to the stuff with Janet. But because everything is great, just wonderful there, we'll be able to make the trip together, hopefully this summer. I want to, I know she wants to visit some of the countries I visited in the past, and I want to go back and see some of them again, and also go to some places that I haven't been. Figure that, by the way, just to give some advance notice, you'll probably be certainly stopping in France. I want to go to Germany as well, and depending how much time we have, see if I can sneak in a day or two to go to my father's country, of course, England.
All right, and let's go with Mia Talis' question. And again, if you didn't get your question answered, save it up for later or discuss it on the forums if you're a backer. Mia Talis asks, can you say that the observer effect applies to the development of CU? Does the extreme amount of openness go beyond just being fair to backers and actually affect the development process in a positive way?
That is an outstanding question. Well done. That is awesome. So, boy, I got to try to keep this one short. So, yes, I do think the observer effect does have an effect on CU. I think it has an effect on any game, where the developer is as open, or I don't want to say as open as us, because we are certainly taking it to a whole nother level. But where the developer is very open and really does share sometimes too much information, but lots of information with the team, with the backers. So I think the effects have been twofold. I think there's been some really positive things, really positive. Outpourings of support when Lady J was ill. Outpourings of support even when we had to delay. Some great ideas, as well that backers have posted, on the forums or talked to us even during things like this. I think there's so many good things that have come from it that I am very happy that we've done it this way. On the other hand, there's also been some very negative things. People who get angry because they think in some cases that we're listening to people too much, even though I don't think you could find a single instance of where someone has, or a group of someone's have changed any of the foundational principles. But we do get some backlash, from that. The fear of, MJ is listening to the forum people. No offense to our forum goers, who I think you can't say universally, because there's never, there's always a few, but the vast majority of our backers have been great on the forums, and we have overall, I think, certainly the best forum experience I've had as a player as well as a backer of other games. So there is that negative. There is certainly also the negative of continued expectations that as we continue to develop the game, backers expect the same level, if not a higher level, of openness and interaction. And sometimes you can't give them both. For example, we've had times where we floated ideas and just got, attacked for some of them, even though all we were doing was sharing an idea, not even something that's we were set on. We just wanted feedback, wanted thoughts, and some people did, I have to say it, overreact. And that's why on the forums, for example, we have the section entitled "Something to Think About," where I always say this is not something to complain about. This is not something to get angry about. It is just something to think about, because that's how we do things here. We talk about a lot of things. It doesn't mean we're going to, bring any of those things that we talk about necessary to fruition. We just want to be able to throw out ideas. And that's one of the good things, because you can use that term as throw out multiple ways. Throw out in terms of suggest, engage, debate, unlike many of the universities nowadays in this country, but also throw out because it doesn't work. That's important to us. And sometimes we've gotten such negative feedback that it makes us less likely to talk about, ideas until they're, more firmly developed. I would love to be able to share some of the ideas that we've had here with all of our backers, but we can't, because we know sometimes that, it's going to provoke a bad reaction, not because the idea necessarily is bad, just because people don't understand it and then go, oh my God, this is going to mean the end of the world as we know it. And that's not what we want. That's a very bad thing to do. So again, this is something I could talk about for another hour. But the short version is the observer effect is absolutely true. But it's true in not as obvious a way as it may seem. We've gotten some very good things that have come out of it. We've gotten some bad things that have come out of it as well. The kind of additional stress or pains in the, various parts of our body, or my body, for example, as I have to deal with refunds from people who read something and just way overreacted to it, where I've then had to spend time talking to them and going, look, this was just something we talked about. Because we want to, get input from you folks. So I think it is a double-edged sword. It's one, again, that I would do again, even though at times it is a little frustrating. But I think, especially when you're dealing with backers, and not just players, but especially with backers, and especially, like most of you folks, experienced players, people who have either played, Dark Age, or Warhammer, or other MMOs, or simply just played other games, then you have a lot to contribute, especially when you folks are thinking and being honest. And that's always so important, that when you are an experienced player, if you're willing to, to share your thoughts, and you're willing to share your honest thoughts. Obviously, we've seen, unfortunately, with Camelot, and at times even with Warhammer, folks who are too focused on, well, I just want my class to be Uber, even though it's not, Uber. I want it to be Uber, and I'll say it's not Uber, just because if I say it's Uber, then it's going to get nerfed to oblivion. And that's where, things can break down. But if people wouldn't do that, especially most people wouldn't do that, you would find, as players, as backers and players, you would have more input. And occasionally, what you say will change what the developers are doing. And not because of a threat, because that's bad, but simply because you contributed something new that the developers hadn't thought of. There isn't a single developer on the planet, nobody, who is going to be right every time. If you folks can contribute to the process, just as I say here, just as I say to every candidate that I interview, that one of the things that sets a studio apart is that everybody is expected and can contribute. I don't care where an idea comes from. I don't care if it comes from HR like Anna, or it comes from, Max is a writer who wants to contribute something as design, even though he's turned out to be quite a fine designer so far with the board game. You're welcome. Now can I have my payment? Or if artists talk about things that artists in other studios aren't allowed to talk about because they're not the designers. That's the sort of studio I want to run, and that's the sort of studio that I want to have. That's the sort of relationship, that I want the studio to have with its backers and its players. So, a longer answer than I wanted, but it was a really great question. It's the first time the question has been asked in that way, so congratulations to you for that question. Great way to end this update. As always, folks, thank you so much for your support. Thank you so much for your patience. And by the way, I mentioned this on the forums as well. I've retasked Max this month to work with me on the backer reward system. We obviously had made a lot of progress, and we talked a little bit about it many months ago. He's going back to work on it because we want that ready to go, obviously, before the beginning of Beta 1. What we will be doing is that we will be laying it out and talking about it on the forums. So, look for that in the coming months. And we'll probably do a small dump on it early in December, depending on how much progress we make. But I think, I know you'll be pleased with the final result, because this is something that I care very much about, especially for all of our backers, whether they are founders, whether they are builders, or even the citizens yet to come. So again, folks, look for an update from me within the coming hour and a half. That'll let you know about where we are with the alpha test. Also let you know if we're going to have a beta 1 test this weekend. If you're an alpha player and you haven't jumped into the game, please do. We really want to put it up this weekend. There's some cool tech that we want to, we want you folks to beat on. The physics zones is so important. It's like our multi-server tech, really crucial to where we want to go with the game. And the sooner we can test it and the sooner we can perfect it, obviously the better for you all. So that's it, and have a great weekend, and hopefully I'll see you in the game.